Everyone, it is 5:15 on Monday, June 24th, 2019, and the Carroll City Council meeting is now in session. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note everyone's in attendance except Mike Kotz. Jerry Fleshner did text me he's going to be here shortly. So. Our first item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the June 10th meeting, approval of bills and claims. Under licenses and permits, we have the renewal of a special Class C liquor license for Board and Arrows Meat Market, renewal of a Class C beer permit with Sunday Sales, Dries Oil Company Incorporated, renewal of Class C liquor license with Sunday Sales, Brothers on Main. We have some cigarette permits. We also have a general permit number 2, stormwater discharge associated with construction activities, Carroll Trails Plan 201. We have the report of a bid opening on the hybrid triplex greens mower for the Golf 2019. We have a report of a bid opening, a small utility tractor. We have the Carroll City Hall furniture, fixtures, and equipment package changes, and the Carroll City Hall sign packages. If there's any questions with regards to those, otherwise I will need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Couple of mentions. I was able to attend the opening of both the greens mower as well as the utility tractor this minute. Very good process, very nice tight bids that came in on the tractor and looked like just a really nice process. I just want to give a nod to the staff for the nice work on getting everything together and making it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
Other than that, I'd move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. And if there's no further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote.
Base?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
Thank you. Are there any oral requests and communications from the audience for items not on the agenda? Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Arnold Heidi. I'm here in regards to the walking path, bicycle path, and on the that would go on Grant Road.
Grant Road, okay.
And I have petitions in my hand that I took up last year, of which Mike Bogey has one, or I'll give him a new one.
Okay.
I would like you guys to read them, and any questions, because we have some.
Okay.
Okay?
Do you have those with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I recall right, you were more concerned about it on the east side of the road, is that correct?
Right, and I see they flagged it again on the west side, on the east side, and this is all in here about what we talked about.
Yeah. So the trail is going on the west side of Grant Road.
Okay, we're about to cross it, because this could all be, if we understand where the crossing will be, I think that would probably eliminate these.
Yeah, I mean, Jack can speak on that.
Where it ends right now at Veterans Park. It is proceeding north, just a little bit further, all on city parkland, and then it'll cross onto Grant Road up to the golf course. All residents north of Veterans Park, that area, there's no trail.
Okay, I have no problem with that. The only thing I would say is that crossing for the Veterans Park has been there for quite some time, and there's never been an incident of any kind regarding younger kids, bicyclists, walkers, at all. And there's at least 100 yards each way that you can see,
Yep.
north and south. And, you know, I mean, eliminates any possible danger there at all. So I will say that for that path right there that goes to veteran. And a lot of them come in and out of there.
Sure.
And I see a lot of the high school kids, when they're on break, they'll come down and go over into the park. So I guess the other thing is, how inconvenient would you be to go further north and then cross, rather than cross right at that spot? That's what I think.
It is just going slightly further north in the park. Where it turns right now, it's probably going another 40 feet. It's not going to the resident on the very south.
Okay.
It's not on their property, it'll turn before that.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to
It's a
clarify.
wide open area on Grant Road, you
Okay.
can see for quite a distance, that's one of the benefits of it.
If anybody would like the petition that I took around the Carroll edition, they're welcome to one, or stating the other facts that we had talked about.
Maybe I'll just take one, just so I make sure that I know we got one.
Okay.
Okay. Well, actually, Laura, you want it for it? Okay. Give it
Yeah,
to
and if you
Laura.
have copies, I'm certainly, I'd love to
Yeah,
have
we'll
them.
make sure we get everybody a copy.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, thank you, Arlen, appreciate it.
Can I ask
Yep.
a quick question? How come we're going further north? Is that due to the study from the engineer, or why aren't we just crossing where the cross is?
I think it's a little bit better visibility, not 100% sure.
Was that our call or engineer's call?
Engineers, we followed their plans.
And I think the other issue is, and I want to pull the map to look at it, you have the T-box, or you have the green pretty much adjacent to it to go into the golf course.
Yeah.
Moving it that 40 feet to the north, you're getting away from the green, which was also another concern.
Okay, I understand that. I can understand that. Are you gonna continue that path further south on the west side then? Because a lot of people come out of the Applewood Knolls addition and walk all the way down that way. And me and Mike we use it ourselves, so, I mean, and I would like to tell you that a lot of people in the Collison addition are very excited about having this done. Because
Not only the
most all of them,
Yeah.
Mike
It's all-
uses
it's all over.
it, the
They
kids
can-
want it, and I don't see any problem with what we're talking about here. There was a crossing that we had talked about, and the amount of accidents that are happening too further to the north at the intersection is really where a big problem would be. Because the visibility is terrible there.
Right.
And as soon as we got the
Yeah.
information, last year
Yeah.
about your concern.
Yeah, we talked about it.
That's when we kind of retooled, you know, we sat down with kind of the two neighbors that were gonna be impacted the most and really wanted to have an open dialogue. And when we heard, no, this wasn't a desire of those neighbors, we immediately retooled, and that's when we started in earnest looking at putting it on the west side of the golf course, and that's what we're doing
Yeah.
right now.
And the safety of our kids is what we're after. I mean, we need to make sure we protect these, especially the younger kids, you know, with that amount of traffic. And they're coming by there now 50, 70 mile an hour. I mean, it's unbelievable how fast a lot of the cars are coming. It really is.
Well, as you get going north, that is a slope upward.
Right,
And
and
so
you
if you
can't
get
see
too
anything.
far north with that track, you're gonna get cars popping over that hill, and then all of a sudden pedestrians in the road.
Yeah.
I think the further you keep it away from that crest, the better.
Exactly, and that's why this all started.
Right.
Came about. And I think we're all on the same page, and I appreciate
But we
that.
didn't wanna impact the driveways of the people that are living on there either. We wanna
No,
stay away from
no,
them.
no.
And I think we're gonna be way south of those enough. And then just keeping it away, keeping it away from the, green area, so that, cause that green right there gets real close to the Grant Road.
I know it does.
And we just wanna.
I watch it
just
well.
keep it- Yeah.
But, yeah.
Right there in front yard of
I
some people.
understand that.
Yeah.
But,
And when it does get close to that green, it's gonna be up elevated, not
Yeah.
very far from the existing trail, there's not a big difference.
Right.
Okay, I
And
appreciate
so-
you listening to me.
Yeah.
And
No
we
problem.
went north a little bit further, and I remember too, is because on the golf course, it's not as steep of a slope as it was back towards the Ford Green.
Okay.
So will that trail extend down to like Town Terrace then, if you're gonna make it wider? There's a reason you're doing this, to be safer?
Yes,
And so will it extend from that, say, the Veterans Crossing south?
With this project, it
No.
will not.
No, will not.
no. It's
We
gonna
may
go up
look at it
to
in future projects, but it's not part of this project.
You just thought if you're gonna do it, and want people safe,
Mhm.
you extend it all the way down, because 90% of people that walk that trail are gonna be coming out of Applewood Knolls. And they're being just as much harm as they are now, you know? But
I think too is just trying to get some of them off of that street, off of Grant Road, and keeping them more out, a little more away from the road. I know, I live out there, and so I drive out there, And I'll see people, and they'll have their dogs, and all of a sudden that dog will jolt right out in the street, and you're, trying to avoid the dog. It's there's just gotta be a little more care, I think, on that. They got those really long leashes. I know I've seen every now and then, I think one individual that doesn't have a leash, has a dog shock collars, but it's just, those dogs can just instantly, boom, they're right out in the traffic. And so I think trying to keep people more up closer to the golf course was also the idea too.
That'd be great.
So, yeah, and the bikers use it, so, bicyclists, so.
Does anybody know, I was just making a note on a follow-up question to that. Are we going to dovetail the two trails together as they're talking about going down to Apple and Knowles? Or are we going to be able to continue that on? I don't know that answer.
We haven't really looked at that segment. But certainly as we look at future trail projects throughout our system, we're trying to do. Mind you, this is only the second phase of trail projects that we're undertaking.
Now, even though as I'm looking for an additional wide trail going down that entire side, but just the continuation or the congruency of those two trails together, the walk path to run down the new trail.
Now, certainly the on-street segment that's there today, that will remain, and they will connect.
Okay, so we will have it, so it's a smooth transition.
Yes.
There. Okay, that's what I want to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome, thanks. Since we're waiting for Jerry, I'm going to go over the resolutions first. Start there, we'll wait on the ordinances. We need a fifth one for that purpose. So our first resolution this evening is on the annual property and liability insurance renewal. And Laura.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city's property liability and worker comp insurance is due for renewal July 1st, which is coming up next week. Attached to your memorandum was a comparison of the information that we had received from Mid-Iowa Insurance, who is our local insurance agent. The city actually has coverage for our property and liability through ICAP, and our worker comp is through IMWCA, and our liability for the airport is through Phoenix Aviation. From the comparison, you can see the total cost is $254,303.87, which is just under $8,900 more than what it was last year, but it is less than what it was a couple of years ago. In some discussions that we had with Mid-Iowa about the reason for the increase was, you can see that the general liability portion through ICAP went up the most from last year. And I was told the way that ICAP is starting to rate cities, all cities in general, they're taking a different approach, which increased this year. And they did not say that this would be the last increase. We might see another increase next year as they're transitioning through how they're starting to rate companies. Then also, our worker comp went up slightly, and that usually has something to do with, because worker comp is based upon our payroll expense, which typically payroll goes up every year, as well as what's called the mod factor, and our mod factor did go up just a little bit. We went from a 0.71 to a 0.74, so we're still sitting really good. So in essence, we're getting a 26% discount on our worker comp insurance, which is really good, but it did go up slightly from the prior year.
I'd trade mods.
You're afraid?
I'd trade.
Oh, you
I'd
trade?
trade, yeah, from my business to the city, that's.
Yeah, this is the lowest it's been since I've been here, is down in the 70s, so I'm not complaining at all.
For the auto liability, is that police vehicles, city vehicles, all city vehicles, fire trucks, utility vehicles, everything?
Yes, the auto
Okay.
liability would be all the vehicles, yes.
Okay.
Like we have done in the past, since these are up for renewal on July 1st, we're asking council to take action tonight to give us the authority to pay the invoices on July 1st, which would be basically our first checks we write out of our new fiscal year. So you have a resolution that gives us that authority. Does anybody have any questions? If you get too technical, we've got Terry Appleton here with Mid-Iowa that can answer some more technical questions.
Like you said, Laura, it's under what it was 2 years ago. And that's just exceptional.
question that came up a lot was with some of the claims we've had, especially with the water main break. Did the increase result because of that? And it isn't. It's all based on kind of this formula-based, amount of property we have and our budgetary amounts. So even though we've had those claims, they really don't affect our rates.
Frequency has more to do with that too, doesn't it, Terry, than?
Well, on your work, on the work comp, yes. On the property and casualty side,
Not
no.
so much.
ICAP's rates have not changed since 1985, when the program started, 85, 86. What your general liability is really rated on, for the most part, is your budget. And so the operating budget is the key factor there, and that's up a little bit from last year. And that alluded to the majority of the thing. But they do not penalize you for claims. They work with you to try and figure out if there's a problem that is consistently happening over and over again, which it isn't. These are just random acts that you could not foresee coming, and loss control couldn't have prevented them. So they don't take any action and negative impact on your pricing.
It's a great thing to have pointed out. It always feels like they do whenever I pay my frequency.
Well, this is a different arrangement. This is a pool which you are a member of. The board is made up of your colleagues, your peers, and so they look at that, and they're not here to penalize you. I can go into long history, but in the mid-'80s, that's why the program was begun, because a lot of the standard carriers got out of the market. You would see 50% increases, 100% increases, if you could get quotes at all. And so that's why it was created, and that's why it's being governed by a group of peers in municipalities, be it city councils or boards of supervisors or members of 2080s. So they take a very close look at that and keep your best interests. They're not an insurance company. They're not trying to make money for anybody else. It's your money.
Thank you.
Is it strictly funded, ICAP, is that strictly funded from the municipalities?
Yes.
They don't get state funding or anything?
No.
Okay.
No.
I know that doesn't have anything to do with this, but I don't know. Just a general question. Any other questions for Laura or Terry? Do we have to appoint you guys every year for this? There isn't a way you can just do it?
ICAP usually asks.
Okay, for that purpose, okay.
Well, in that case, is it something that might find its way to consent agendas in the future? For just that portion of it, I guess?
Well, I wrapped it all into one resolution, instead of approving the resolution.
Have to for the dollars anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's a big enough dollar amount, yeah.
I was thinking more about the power to do so rather than.
If there aren't any other questions, I need a motion to approve the contract with ICAP for property liability and workers' compensation insurance coverage, which includes the payment of premiums on July 1st, 2019, and to appoint the city manager, Mike Boogie Weaver, and city clerk finance director, Laura Schaefer, as the contacts to act as the liaisons between the city and ICAP.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, okay. There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote.
Base?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Fleischer?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next resolution is the preliminary and final plat of Lot 1 of Lot A New Opportunity Subdivision of the Southeast Quarter Section 20 T84N R34W, Carroll County. And, is that Randy? Or Mike?
It's all.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request by Community Opportunities, Inc., doing business as New Opportunities. It is a subdivision request named Lot 1 of Lot A, New Opportunity Subdivision of the Southeast Quarter Section 20, Township 28 North, Range 34 West of Carroll County. The land to be subdivided is 1.478 acres. It is within our 2-mile area review, which is why it's before the council tonight. The property is zoned B2 zoning, and this proposed use is conforming. The purpose of this plat is really to facilitate an expansion at New Opportunities They received a federal grant to do expanded Head Start programming there. And part of that, they just want to subdivide this and then to meet some of the regulations with the federal grant that they received. There really is no new streets being proposed, utilities, sewer connections. In fact, this is provided by well today, or rural water probably, excuse me, and septic. This was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their meeting here in July or June, and they did recommend approval of the plat as proposed, waiving all irregularities of planning requirements of the city. Staff is making the same recommendation. With that, I guess I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has.
The waiver of all the irregularities, I don't recall that from previous things we've done. Is that fairly common? Is this, doesn't seem like it'd be an issue, and I'm just curious.
We've had it since I've been here, and it really is more applies to these kind of plats within the 2 miles, where there is some subdivision requirements. For example, maybe we want a grading plan required under our preliminary plat requirements, so we're waiving that because it really, in this reason, has no purpose.
On this map here, where's the additions in the?
Guess I defer that to you guys.
It'd be to the west side of the current building, the west side, the west building. The reason that we want to have it divided is that with this being a federal grant, the federal government is saying that then they get to own all the property that this new building is being built on. When New Opportunities is saying, well, we don't want you to own all that land, that's why we want to divide it out, so they can own the part where the new building's gonna go on. We don't want them to own any of our current buildings or any of our current property. So it's really just protecting New Opportunities' future for 20, 50, 100 years down the road. There's no streets,
Are they gonna
nothing.
connect?
What's that?
Are they connecting?
They're connected.
They will connect.
You guys, you don't have any city water out there at all? No city services at all?
But the buildings will be separate.
The
two
buildings are separate.
That's what we're asking.
That's what I asked.
Yeah.
Well, the building that's being added is gonna be
You're gonna be right
connected to
here.
the current
But your
building.
the west building is not gonna connect to the east building.
Correct. Sorry, yeah, that's right. There'll be an addition put on to that west building.
Can't read it. Fine.
Any other questions? If not, I will need a motion to approve Lot 1 of Lot A, New Opportunity Subdivision of the Southeast Quarter, Section 20, T84N, R34W, Carroll County Preliminary and Final Plats as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So moved.
Oh, okay, just do the preliminary, and then we gotta do a motion.
Yes, there's 2 separate resolutions, so we'd like to take separate action.
Gotcha. So with that, then I need the motion to go, the Carroll City Council approve Lot 1 of Lot A, New Opportunity Subdivision of the Southeast Quarter, Section 20, T84N, R34W, Carroll County Preliminary, waiving all irregularities to the planning requirements.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Space?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And then I need a motion to approve the final plat of the same.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. No other discussion. We'll go ahead and vote, please.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Seaman? Yes. Dirks?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Space?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Since Jerry's here, we'll go back to ordinances and the Carroll Community School District, the Adams parking change. And that one is Randy, please. Randy and Brian? Who's gonna go first?
I can start.
Okay.
Bring Brad in. The community school district has requested some parking and related changes out on Adams Street and 11th, right outside this building. Their request was included in an exhibit. It is generally described as removal of the Adams Street crosswalk on the south side of 11th Street, addition of angled parking on the east side of Adams Street, north of where there's current angled parking up to 11th Street. Add persons with disabilities parking on the east side of Adams Street, north of 11th, and change the restricted parking times on Adams Street to more closely conform with their bus loading and unloading times. On review of their graphic request, we've made some suggestions and included it as Exhibit B. They are primarily to conform to the Americans with Disabilities Act. Certain things need to be done, and we all have to do it. The persons with disabilities parking spaces would be identified as being on Adams Street in the 1100 block north, the east side, 3 parking spaces north of 11th Street. There are currently 4 regular parking spaces at that location, and then north of that is the no parking zone outside of the entrance to the auditorium. Parking currently is restricted from 8 to 4, both sides of Adams Street from 10th to 12th. And Brad has some proposed changes to that parking restriction. And in just a second, I'll finish up and Brad can explain those to you. We have discussed this request with the school district representatives. We've advised them that any construction or constructive changes to the area on Adams Street would be their responsibility. But in conjunction with those, if it's approved, the city would come in and do the paint striping, of course, we do that, and then reconstruct the pedestrian curb ramps in that intersection of 11th and Adams. They are not conforming at this point. So with that, turn it over to Brad to explain his parking.
Two shakes before that, Randy.
Yes.
Talking about the ramps, do we have room in the budget to shift around with our ramps that we're already building around town? We have so many dollars allocated, I assume we have enough to shift a couple of them there.
Yes, we would perform that with our city maintenance personnel.
How many ramps would there be?
Or
4?
if the crosswalk on the south side is removed.
Right. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Brad, didn't mean to steal your thunder.
There's not a lot of thunder here. The only change that we have would be for the ordinance, of course, is for the parking issue. What they're doing is creating a bus drop and pickup zone, and so to change the parking to comply with that, the request was have no parking 7:30 to a.m. and 2:30 to 3:45 Monday through Friday school days only. That'll be on 10th Street to about 20 feet north of the center line of 11th Street on the east side only. So where there's currently parking now, no parking 8 to 4, they'll change that to allow parking separating the bus pickup and drop off times. And then the west side would stay the way it is now. We just need an ordinance to show that. So that'll be no parking 8 to 4 Monday through Friday on 10th to 11th Street.
How does this line up, Brad, with other similar areas throughout town? I know we've done some changes.
We just changed in front of St. Lawrence a couple years ago, and the times are actually exactly the same. We just copied that ordinance and put it into play here for Carroll. So this will open up some parking for them during the daytime hours, right outside the doors of this building. And then, of course, allow for quite a bit of parking that night as it does now.
That's what I was hoping for, we're just getting some congruency in the system.
Yep, yeah, exactly the same times as in front of St. Lawrence on the West Street.
So is there gonna be a curb the whole way on the addition?
A curb?
Right now they use, that's paved right outside this building where they drive their vehicles right up.
There'll still be a couple of entrances there from what I understand, because they're gonna still utilize the parking within the fence, so I need the entrance and exit for that as it is now. And And so they'll still have their driveways, I believe, in place too. There will be some adjustments though where the curbs are at, and the removal of the crosswalk, of course.
So currently, let me understand this, currently it's 8 to 4, no parking.
Correct.
And they wanna make it so you can park there at, up until 2:30.
Pretty much, they want to be able to bring their buses in in the morning for drop off and in the afternoon for pickup, and no parking during those times.
All right, do
Otherwise,
we-
open it up.
Is there some reason they need this parking during the day? It wasn't there, needed before.
I didn't really specify. if
Well,
it
what
was
I'm seeing
needed.
happening is somebody gets delayed that thinks, oh, I'm fine until 2:30. They get delayed for some reason, there they are, the buses, and I'm not seeing why we're switching this to allowing parking at 2:30, unless we need the space.
They did say some of the idea was to allow for, they must have visitors that come during the day, they brought that up, that would look for space to park. I don't think it's gonna be a huge need by any means.
Jerry, I think I could speak that just a little bit. I've seen it at the other schools. You know, you get grandparents' days or this or that going on or another, and it gives a parking space for, you know, for people to come in and use while they're not bringing the buses in. And I can't honestly say that I've seen it be a problem, but I'm sure.
Well,
it could be.
the difference at this school is there's quite a bit of parking right next to the building, unlike St. Lawrence. Well, St. Lawrence has a good parking lot too, I guess, but I was just thinking, I mean, I don't see why changing the configuration here means that we want to allow someone to park it. I mean, if there's a good reason, I'm fine with that.
Nothing was
Did
really-
they ask to have it that, did the school ask to
They
change
did,
it?
yeah, they did request.
Well, they must have a
change.
reason, I guess.
Yeah, the only thing was the visitors, they have random visitors during the day that needed parking,
Okay,
but it
so it's
wasn't.
exactly what you're saying.
They weren't saying it was a daily need, and at St. Lawrence on West Street, we've had almost no problems there with people parking, for bus pickup.
We'll be good on the south side of Kemper too. Can't think of any time there's been an issue there.
So they're aware that there may be a car parked out there when the bus shows up. Okay.
Yeah, we met with Jeff Dvorak, and we also met with the transportation director too, so they all agreed to this time change.
Maybe the local tow truck services are in on this.
Brad, do you know if are they moving the crosswalk signal to the crosswalk that's still staying?
That, Randy might have the answer for that one, I think. I believe it's coming out.
I think that's bad.
What was the question?
They're leaving a crosswalk, but they're not putting up the light, and there are so many kids that cross there.
Yeah, it's really wide and open. I finally drove around and looked. I guess my thought is, this isn't telling me a whole lot. I mean, how many spaces are they adding, and we're losing a safety factor, for one. And I don't know, I understand the handicap parking, that seems rational where that is placed, but additional parking stalls, additional parking, it would have been nice to have had a satellite view, and then what they were speculating on how many parking spaces they're speculating that they need, and I'm wondering, this is a busy street.
Well, you're putting
And
that
you're adding more cars on
right
a busy
on the
street.
crosswalk.
Right, and the main crosswalk they wanna take out is going right into the main doors. And it's very wide, and there's good visibility, and I guess there isn't much detail on this, like, and what is the rationale for wanting to add all the parking on Adams Street? Did they give that information?
The main reason was bus drop-off and pickup. Right now, the buses will line up on Adams and also on 10th Street. And the way I understood it was the goal was to get them off at 10th Street and all line up on Adams Street.
Okay.
So they're adding, these zones will be the pickup drop-off zones. So they're able to go from, I think it said 6 to 8 buses, 8 to 10 buses, by removing these parking or these curb areas.
It's not the diagonal parking that they're.
Oh, so
No,
that's
they're
what
after
they
a
mean
drop-off
by
zone.
stalls, so
It'll be
where-
striped, for that, but their buses will park.
So that all along the east side of the street then, that's where the buses are parking, and that, okay.
Would that not ease some of the pedestrian traffic coming from the west across them? That's why it was there to start with, is because they were parking buses on 10th Street, or on 11th Street, excuse me. and walking across.
Now the buses line up on Adams, and then the backfill buses are on 10th Street towards Main. So that's their goal, is they want to increase the buses on Adams to get them off at 10th Street. And they're changing their waves to 2 waves instead of 3, or I don't know exactly how they do the busing, but to change their
their
waves for their pickup and
logistics.
drop off time.
Is
So
it
that's
10th or 11th Street on the buses?
right now 10th.
Okay, because it used to be 11th.
Was it?
Yeah.
So that's their ultimate goal, is for busing, not for more parking or changing
So
times, it's for
parking
the
is
busing.
for the
part.
busing.
Correct.
Okay. It is not clear, for me anyway.
No. It will be striped for diagonal parking, which can be used, except
When they
between
are-
7:30 and 8:30 and
Okay.
2:30.
I'm still not understanding this timing on the parking. Half the time, those kids get out of school earlier than 3:30 anyway. And how often, I mean,
They said they eliminated.
No, they're eliminating that, and they're not doing that any longer, starting next school year.
so we don't get out early for bad weather anymore.
Well, for that, yes, but not
Okay.
for, not the Wednesdays, once a week, or every third
Okay,
week, or
that's
whatever
good.
it is now.
Well, that was what I was thinking of, not the bad weather, but both come into play.
Just as an aside to your comment, Jerry, I think that they realize that that parking is used between 8 and 4. The day that Brad and I met with them.
Being used anyway?
Yes.
Okay.
The day that Brad and I met with them, I think it was probably half full between 11 and 10.
Even though it was posted not to be there.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's-
that makes sense, because there's other areas in town that are just like that. I can think of where,
It's really, they do use it, and
Yes.
they thought conforming to their needs with time limits would probably serve them better.
We're parking there right now.
Yes, we are, but it's after 4. I parked there that morning when we met with them too, and it was between 8 and 4. You know, it's pretty common that happens on Adams Street. And this was just, I think Brad's discussions with them, it suited their needs, and it's been successful at St. Lawrence and at Kemper with these, signed with these types of times. Either way. But in any case, unless there are any other questions.
Are there any disability kids on those buses, that, a physical disability?
I would only
Those
assume
buses that come up.
I would assume there probably is, but we didn't get that answer or question.
Okay. You were saying?
Just the recommendation, that you consider removal of their request to remove the crosswalk and change the angle parking, and by motion, and then by motion add handicap or persons with disability parking spaces, and adoption of the ordinance restricting the parking times.
Well, I guess the other, I'm gonna speak this one out loud. I guess the concern I have is, you know, these are, I don't want to, whoever drew these, I don't want them to take it bad, but it's a fairly crude drawing. But is this something that, you know, activity along this road that needs to be studied a little more closely? You know, removing a crosswalk, I mean, that was the safety concern I had, is that, and everybody else seems to too. Is this something that needs to be actually engineered or studied, looked at a little more closely than just, here it is? I mean, that.
I think I would be more comfortable if at least they were here to represent an explanation, to give a little explanation beyond the.
Beyond,
drawings.
yeah,
And I really get what you're saying, and both of you, Chief Burke and
Right.
Randy Bolton, but.
it's not anything that you guys haven't done, it's just that I think there's some questions that people have that I think they just want a little more information from.
Brad, how many buses are we talking about lining up and needing this space?
They're gonna use 10 per wave, is that what I understood it? They currently use 8, and they're gonna be able to go to 10.
Okay.
So they can get 8 buses lined up in that little spot?
No,
They could.
all of Adams.
Yeah, on Adams.
Yeah.
So are they parked in front of the gym too, the buses?
No.
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 I think they wanna move farther north with doing this.
That's the goal, yes.
Yeah, to add 2 more buses in this area here.
That seems kind of far away for handicap parking also, to get to the main entrance.
And that's our,
Or
that's,
am I-
currently, is there anything, there's no handicap parking there now, or there's one stall, no stalls there?
I don't believe there's any.
So we're actually adding, there's none there now, so we're actually adding some that wasn't there in the past, or hasn't been there now.
But,
Apparently, they have their accessible route from that location into their building,
okay.
is what they told us.
I'm not familiar with this much, but there is no way that they could meet, come up with some kind of compromise and keep that. That is a nice wide crosswalk, very open, and still position buses and be dropping off kids as other kids are using the crosswalk. There's, it's either black or white, it's either there or not there. They,
And I'm sorry, Carolyn, I'm kind of along with you. The other thing too is, there's people who live across the street, and how is it gonna affect them? They use that. I would think they would use this area.
and I don't know how much foot traffic they get, but
Mhm.
it seemed to me to have something with the light, they must have a lot of foot traffic.
The light
I
is
just see it
actually,
as a loss.
the light's actually a throwback to when this was the high school. I mean, there was a lot of traffic at that time because kids parked cars on 11th Street and came across a lot. I don't know, you guys probably remember that. Sure. And then the light out here on the other side is
Yeah.
also a throwback to the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, those lights have been being retired as they have spent their useful life. And I would, because I said this one wouldn't be replaced, and that's kind of what we talked with them about. Because it's pretty much had its 100-year useful life probably. And so it probably wouldn't be worthwhile to spend the money to replace electrical to have this light relocated. Crosswalks now are just, the fluorescent, green signing, advanced signing and crosswalk signing. Those are our standard crosswalks throughout town. These two are really the unusual and about the only ones left in town with a flashing light. And they would continue as long as it works. And when it doesn't work, the plan would be not to replace it.
So, Randy, are you saying we're really disregarding the light? There's, no one sees a need for this crosswalk anymore?
It's used. When Brad and I were up here, they were having the meal program in this building. And I think probably a half a dozen people crossed from the west side of Adams to the east, and they all used that crosswalk. And we approached the reps of the school district, and they said, well, they believe that people will use the north crosswalk, because it's also marked on the north side of 11th Street. So that was their request and their justification.
I just saw the convenience of this one going right to the doors.
It is a few steps closer, absolutely, yes.
If they left this one in place, though, wouldn't people be walking out from between buses out into the traffic?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
think
didn't
that's
know
what
if
they
they
would
would
avoid.
just place the buses to the south, maybe.
But
Not-
they're asking to go
because you
north
wouldn't-
and 2 more.
They're gonna have buses parked on the crosswalk they wanna take out.
Yeah, there'd be 2 in front of the crosswalk, so there's people would have to
So
walk
they-
between the buses to go back west.
I certainly respect the opinions of the council people around the table. I wish to bring a different perspective to the table real quick. The school has examined this plan, they've designed this plan. We may not like all the lack of detail, if you will, of the plan, but they've come up with it. I'm pretty sure they're in the business of keeping kids safe. I guess if Chief Burt doesn't have any issue with the safety for the kids at the crosswalk, I would respect his opinion on that, and I would also respect the school and their due diligence on how they're going to do this and what they're going to do. I certainly respect all your opinions that we've got to maybe have some more detail and know more about it. I think it just needs to be said that they probably worked it
I just guess, I wish whatever they worked over hard, there was more empirical data, there's more information
Yeah.
here. But I kinda agree with Eric that, I don't know, I think somebody should show up and give us a more thorough.
What's the rationale for putting in, what was the rationale for putting in those pedestrian crossing signs from the beginning?
That proceeded all of
think
them.
any of us were born.
Quite a long ways.
Jerry, you're gonna cross the
No,
street.
they'll
man.
hire me.
Is there any that exist today?
Just these two.
No, I mean, what? if-
All the smokers used that crosswalk.
I believe that was brought up at
Lunchtime.
Yeah.
I bet it was.
There was no parking in this area here either before, when it was the high school, that was all up, they say it was playground or grass area, I don't know what you said it
It
was.
was basketball hoops out
Maybe
here.
that's what it was, so there was no parking there either, so everyone, students, staff, all parked across the street.
Yeah, it was all street parking up on 11th. The next street over on Adams.
Well, the kids used to park all the way to the next
Yeah.
block. 10th and 11th. 10th had parking, still does,
Yeah.
so.
If you got here early, you could
Not nearly as
just run
many.
out at lunchtime and have your cigarette
Yeah.
down 11th Street.
That's right.
So, is there a rationale today to install one of those pedestrian blinking signs? Is there requirements for that?
There are no requirements.
There are no requirements. So it's just if someone asks that it be put in?
Well, generally in those cases, certainly, you can respond by putting one in. Actually, if there are no requirements, it's that way for a reason that, we expect drivers to obey pedestrian
Right.
crosswalk law wherever they are. And if they're all signed uniformly, that's the expectation, that they obey that uniform signing for pedestrian crosswalks. These are a little, I'd say, a little bit unusual signing for this community. It's a throwback for a long time ago, and it's okay to leave them there. But as far as making it uniform with all other crosswalks in town that are marked, headwalks, it is an unusual addition.
If we were engineering it up, we wouldn't put these back up.
Probably not. You know,
That's a good thought.
some of it goes to the volume of the crosswalk, and there isn't that much volume. Back when people parked all over the street on 11th and 10th and all the streets, there was probably more volume. The high school students driving. Now we've got middle school and below, I think, or below middle school, actually. So much of it is bus traffic. I mean, it's the vast majority of the students are ride by bus.
I would imagine they have adults out there directing, with the vest on.
They do at 10th Street in Adams, I don't know about 11th, I've never ventured that direction, I just stay away, it's a mess, so. The 10th and Adams, I know they do have them there.
So what's the age of the kids that are here?
Third, fourth.
Third and fourth only. That was,
And most of them are using a bus.
There's a lot of time drop
There's a lot of walk, parent drop off.
I believe the parents probably pick up a lot of kids.
There's quite a few walk.
They pick up on Main Street.
They do both.
they pick them up out here?
Main Street's the pick up, drop off for parents, then buses on the west side, of course, on Adams.
So do we want to throw this back to the school and have them come back with more details, or do we want to?
Maybe just table it till the next meeting.
Yeah, that's.
I think just to
I
make
think
sure
it's fair to
that
have them come.
we're all on the same page. Because like I say, to me, it affects the people that live on that street too, and I'm sure some use that. If there's any questions from the neighborhood, I'd like them to, they have some concerns. I'll look for a motion to table the Carroll Community School District Adams Street parking change request.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other questions? Go ahead and vote.
Haley?
Yeah.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Base? Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you. get back onto resolutions. And our next resolution is the water distribution main replacement 2019. And Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On June 18th, one proposal for the construction of the water distribution main replacements was received, open and tabulated. It was submitted by King Construction in the amount of $321,746. That proposal is detailed in your information. King Construction submitted a responsive proposal, and we believe that they are a responsive bidder. Their proposal is below the engineer's estimate by almost $182,000. And based on that proposal, the total project cost is now estimated at $341,546, with the anticipated funding at $500,000. The schedule includes completion of the project if awarded by September 30th of this year. So unless there are any questions, I'd recommend consideration of your resolution awarding the proposal for the water distribution main replacements to King Construction at their price of $321,746.
How many applicants was there for the bid? King was the only one?
King was the only bid submitted. We had, actually, we had two prime contractor plan holders. The other did not submit a bid.
And King would not have known
We don't believe there would be a way for him to know it unless he was in contact with the other bidder.
that, not you.
They do now.
If you know you're the only bid.
Bid, yeah.
This well underneath the estimate. I'm really surprised at that, Randy. Do we usually see this big a disparity?
No, we don't. It just, it appears that their unit pricing was good.
Yeah,
And
all of those things were
it
good.
resulted in a lower bid.
Maybe they got all that stuff before the tariffs and all the steel.
Might have.
Are there any other questions for Randy? If not, I need a motion to approve the resolution awarding the contract for the water distribution main replacement 2019 project to King Construction at their bid price of $341,000. $321,746. That's the wrong one, circle.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote.
Base?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Dirks? Haley?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
Thank you. The next resolution is the water storage tower rehabilitation 2019. And Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also on June 18th, proposals were received for the water storage tower rehab project. 5 proposals were received. They ranged from $543,700 to $921,000. And they are also summarized in your information. All the bidders appear to be responsible, and Utility Service Company, Inc. submitted the lowest proposal at $543,700. That is actually also below the engineer's estimate by just over $61,000. Based on that proposal, the project cost is now estimated at $626,200. With a budget estimate of $625,000, it does exceed the budget by $1,200. So part of your consideration tonight is to proceed or not proceed with this project. And if you decide to proceed, it will require a funding shortfall to be made up, and in all practicality, from the water utility fund balances, which are projected at the end of next fiscal year, June of 2020, to be $1,177,489. Project schedule for this project is completion within 120 days of notice to proceed on the contract. So that will be established following award of the contract and discussions with the successful bidder, contract holder. Also in this project, the specifications provide for color selection of the tower at the time that the contract is awarded.
Did you not get that done yet, Jared? I was gonna be quiet about it.
Oh.
It's not gonna be Hawkeye Gold.
Actually, the paint company, there was a paint company specified, and the company did submit a color chart to us, although it did not contain either the previous color or the current color. So those have been requested, if you care to consider those.
You have those down at the, you have those at City Hall?
I haven't received them yet.
Oh, you haven't got them
They
yet?
were requested
Okay.
after the color chart came in without them in.
Okay.
They did tell us the colors are available, but not in their color chart.
Did they honestly give a recommendation for any particular color for any reason, be it visibility or something else?
No, the color that, it was formerly azure, and had been for a long time. The current color was selected at the time of the last painting, and it was selected by the mayor.
That was not me.
Just for a change. And it, I mean, I think everybody likes the color. I think azure was probably also accepted pretty well, so.
Yeah.
I want to just clarify something real quick, Randy, because I had a little bit of I had a gasping moment for air as I looked at this, which I know it's always been on here for a lot of money, but just to clarify, this is to put the mixer in and recoat the inside and outside of the tower?
Yes, it is.
So it's not just the coatings inside and outside, but also the, was it stirrator mixer?
It's a mixer, it's a static mixer.
And what does that do again, that mixer? Help me, remind me of what it does to improve our quality of water in Carroll?
Okay, the way the tower operates is, water comes in from the bottom, obviously, is pumped up from the high service pump station, enters the bottom of the tower. And as long as the high service pumps are on, that's what's happening. Water is being used throughout the system, and the excess is going in to fill the tower. It fills from the bottom up. As soon as the pumps go out, it reverses and starts taking water out of the tower, obviously. So the last water in, which is chlorinated, most recently chlorinated, is the first water out. So we get water with age on it in the upper reaches of the tower. And during hot periods of high use, that water gets used. So the mixer sets in the bottom of the tower, disperses the water coming in, mixes it with the water that's in the tower. So you should have, the theory is, and it actually happens, uniform distribution of chlorine in the tower. So when the water starts being used, it's chlorinated the same throughout the tower.
Excellent. I'd heard that before, I just wanted to hear it again, and looking at the big price tag on this job, just, you look at it and it's all coatings companies, it looks like, when you look at the memo, and it's.
Coating companies are generally welders too, and that's why we don't need a separate subcontractor to do that.
I dug down to the bottom to see that was in there. I just wanted to make sure we all understood we're getting the work done and the coatings, not just the coatings.
Right, it's about 100,000 for the mixer.
The coating's the big part, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, sure, it is.
It's the same kind of coating that they put in before, do you know?
No, it isn't. The interior is real close to that same paint scheme, but the exterior, there have been, more developments in the last 20 years.
Well, I was thinking more on the inside, because that's the stuff you don't want flaking off into the water.
It's a potable water coating. The better of what they offer is what we spec. The exterior will be a different coating that is on now, theoretically a better, longer lasting coating, better resilience to weather factors and everything.
Is that that mixer, is that gonna be running all the time? Or do you have the ability to turn it on and shut it off?
No, the mixer is static. It does not move.
Oh, it doesn't move.
The
No.
water goes in.
The water goes in and it's basically like a fountain.
Oh, so it
Mixes
shoots it up and
away.
around.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like the little beaker with the little
No,
magnetic stir in there.
we could have put one of those in, but it's too big a beaker.
Yeah, it's a big beaker, a big magnet.
We throw you down inside, put the new bearings in, Mr. Mayor.
I can get my fins out and paddle around in there.
So how many days is the tower gonna be down?
Up to 120. The last time it was painted, it was down for 3.5 months. So we're right in that range.
Backup is the old facility down on South Main, or just off South Main.
Your backup is that facility, but it has to run all the time. The pumps will be running constantly for 4 months. And they have to maintain pressure in the system. The way that operates, that was renovated years ago to provide for those pumps to run, and during average or high water use, of course, all the water would be going out of the plant. But during nighttime, low water use, the pumps still have to run to maintain pressure, and it's recirculated back into the ground storage reservoir.
Can we cycle those pumps on and off, or how? I assume-
We can use all 3 of them.
So they're not running a continuous duty cycle, they're cycling on and off, but we're gonna have to power them and maintain them, keep them running.
Yes.
Are they in good enough repair to hold up the job?
Well, barring any emergency repairs, they are.
Sure.
Sure.
We've maintained them and taken care of them.
Mhm.
We should do a budget resolution to make up the 1,200 down the road.
During our budget.
Yeah, okay. Are there any other questions for Randy?
We have to decide the color?
I would suggest not, since we don't even have the color samples. Technically, it's written in the spec for that, and you considered it, but they didn't provide the color samples, and actually, you would have until time of shop drawings submitted.
It's going to be a different color no matter what then, if they don't have the color we have.
Yeah, they do have the color,
They do.
but it's just not in their color book. Go figure, but that's actually what they told me.
Eggshell white, something
It's
like that.
Daily Bread is the color of the town.
Daily bread?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Mayor Pro Tem gets a choice.
Daily
Bread and
bread.
water, really, Randy?
What's that?
Bread and water, really?
Daily
Really?
bread.
Bread and water.
But we got a few pilots here. Is there any problem with the visibility of the tower that you would object to now, or any other color, or nothing?
Not in the least.
Okay.
Aircraft could not legally fly low enough over the city of Carroll for that water tower to be a hazard. And I've never heard anyone talk about it as being any type of a hazard.
One thing about the color now, when it fades, it's that color.
Yes. Yeah, the lighter colors tend to have
The
more
blue
color.
will fade, dark blue will fade, light blue or so.
Yeah, well, azure is a light blue, is a sky blue, but the older paints did fade and chalk a little bit, even in the azure color. Newer paints, these are fluoropolymers, they probably won't fade much, a little, but much more color retention than the older, even epoxy paints.
Those epoxy paints are tough.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Randy?
We'll leave this color thing up to the Mayor Pro Tem, don't we, Mr. Mayor?
That'd be worth something.
I need a motion to approve the resolution awarding the contract for the water storage rehab 2019 project to Utility Service Company Incorporated at their bid price of $543,700.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. No other discussion? We'll go ahead and vote.
Base?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The last resolution is the sewer utility rate fund analysis, and Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Carroll County Solid Waste Management Commission currently discharges leachate into the city's wastewater treatment system. And that's discharged under an Iowa Department of Natural Resources Operation Permit Treatment Agreement. The commission has violated the effluent limitations in that agreement at times in the past. They have now requested an amendment to that agreement. And tonight's information is not directed at the amendment, but at the council's response to the request. And it's recommended that the first step in that response be to go through a sewer utility system rate analysis to try to first determine the cost of service to primarily the industrial contributors, but also an overview look at your rate system in the sewer utility fund. So we have requested and received a proposal to do that from Veenstra and Kim. The scope of services that we discussed and is included in the proposal includes certainly the review of the past revenue and expenses, preparation of a cost of service analysis, evaluate the large user costs and their revenue generated from them, and then propose any recommendations for modifications for that rate structure. Compensation in the proposed agreement is a not to exceed number of $18,800. And their time of completion is to provide a draft report by Halloween. So that's what we have proposed. The recommendation is your consideration of accepting that professional services agreement with Veenstra and Kim for the sewer rate study.
When's the last time something like this was done?
Oh, I think when the plant was built, we had a rate study done. That would have been 15 years ago.
Okay.
You know, certainly, you know from annual budgeting that the rates that are being charged certainly cover all of the operation and maintenance expense and capital replacements to the plant, plus fund an amount for the projected 5-year capital improvement program. So your utility fund is in good financial condition, appears to be. This is more primarily, the focus here would be to identify the cost of service to the large industrial users. We have two that have separate agreements, the commission and Smithfield Foods. And those two, we think that this is the opportunity for you to determine that you're charging those larger users a fair and equitable amount of money for all users. And then also take a look at, generally look at the charge for all users.
Well, isn't there, since the solid waste, they upgraded their leachate system, are we seeing more flow,
Yes, there is more flow.
There's increased flow.
Well, I take that back. The way that they measured flow before, they had a lot of errors in the flow numbers. And so we know we're getting a more accurate reading of flow now.
Okay.
But there are some flow violations in this historical record of the commission.
I know they're building a new cell out there.
Mm.
So there's gonna be, you got the old cells and now a new one, so you may see some increase on that.
They continue to expand. I would assume that over the longer time, you'd expect more contribution of each.
Okay. Any other questions for Randy? If not, I need a motion to approve the resolution accepting the professional engineering services proposal of Veenstra and Kim Incorporated for sanitary sewer rate study.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any other discussion? We'll go ahead and vote.
Fleshner.
Yes.
Haley.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Base. Dirks.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. We will now get to reports, and the first report is the airport discussion presentation. Gene and Greg, please. Sorry for the wait. Thanks for waiting.
Oh, that's quite all right. I'm Greg Seaman, and with me is Gene Benson and Jerome Hutchinson, our commission chairman. We've got good news to bring to the city council. We've been contacted by a medical helicopter company, a very large company in the industry called Air Methods. Air Methods, for example, supplies helicopter services to both Mercy Hospital and Iowa Methodist Hospital in Des Moines. They also provide helicopter services for the hospitals in Omaha, as well as Iowa City and Fort Dodge. They contacted us because they have been looking at western Iowa as a new location to supply medical helicopter services in the whole of this western area and on into northwest Iowa. They originally were looking at Denison, but their pilots informed them that before you even think about Denison, you ought to take a look at Carroll. They have the airport for west central Iowa, and you need to go there. They took a look at our city, and they took a look at our airport, and they were sold, and we began a series of negotiations that were kept highly confidential due to their request, and we were subject to a confidentiality agreement, is why this was not brought to the public earlier. We have now been released from that confidentiality agreement, and we can tell you that Air Methods intends to base a medical helicopter in Carroll, Iowa, at the Carroll, Iowa Airport as early as beginning next month. Now, ultimately, and when I say ultimately, I'm talking about as early as late summer this fall, it will be staffed with 7 aviation certified registered nurses, 4 resident pilots, 2 mechanics, and 1 coordinator scheduler, and all of these jobs being extremely high-paying jobs. We can't tell you that all of these people will reside in Carroll, but they'll certainly reside in the area because they intend to have a 24/7 presence at the Carroll Airport. Not only is this a good thing in terms of economic development for the area, but it's a great thing for our hospital because the proximity of a medical helicopter will enhance the usability of our hospital as a regional hospital. So our negotiations have been confidential, of course, and they've been wide-ranging because when they took a look at Carroll initially, we didn't know what they wanted, and they frankly didn't know what their long-term plans are. So we started talking about a 5-year commitment, possibly a 10-year commitment. And I know there's been some concern about a grant application that the Airport Commission made of $600,000 to the state of Iowa, which would have for hangar construction. That was done in the blind, so to speak, by us on the Airport Commission making that application because we had about 3 days to do that, and we were subject to our confidentiality agreement, and we were dealing with an unknown, that is what this helicopter company ultimately would want in Carroll. Now, where we're at right now with our negotiations, and Gene is going to talk to you in a little more specifics about that, is that they want to give it a test, about a 2-year test, And that would be, they're about 80 to 85% sure that at the end of that 2-year experiment, so to speak, that they'll be seeking a permanent location here. They would intend to base one EC, that's Eurocopter 135 model helicopter. That would be very similar to what you see coming in and out, if not identical, to most of the helicopters coming in and out of Carroll. They would also have the ability for using their fixed wing Pilatus PC-12 aircraft. They have one based in Omaha with a children's hospital moniker, decals on the side of it, and have one based at the University of Iowa in Iowa City. And that was one thing that was attractive about the Carroll Airport as a location, because our airport was more usable for the size of aircraft that they are using in those locations. So we feel that it is it's a win for Carroll, because none of these jobs are even average jobs. All of them are extremely high paying. And we're at the point where we're firming up our negotiations with Air Methods. And Air Methods, to describe the company, would have several hundred of these types of operations, similar to what they'll put in Carroll, around the country, including the ones in major cities, which are larger, of course, in Des Moines and Omaha. So I'd like to discuss some of the negotiations that are going on right now and what may be necessary short-term and what may be necessary long-term in terms of an investment by our community in upgrading our infrastructure at the airport, in keeping with the arrangement that we're going to work out with them. Gene, do you want to explain that, please?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here. We love to sell the Carroll Airport. And we have been negotiating with them. It started last October. We are at the point where we're trying to put a little pressure on before the one-year deadline for a firm commitment to Carroll, so we know where we are, the city knows where they are, and the people of our community know what's going on. We don't have that done, but we are going to have a startup cost. One of the big items out there is going to be, they are going to bring in a 60 by 30 modular home, and placement of that and providing sewer for it. And I know you've all been to the airport, you can see we're going to probably have to put in a berm similar to what we have south of the terminal right now for the sewer system. We don't have firm costs, we have what we think are good comparisons of some that have been built similar to handle the capacity, because we have to address this as a 4-bedroom home, and only 3 of the bedrooms are, one of the bedrooms will be used as a secure room for meds and so forth. And really what we're gonna need from the city is some seed money to get this up and going. This is a for-profit business, and we're going to try to recap a big portion of the outlay of capital. We're guessing that someplace between 60 to 75,000 to start this. It is our hopes that we can recap 75 to 80% of that money over a period of time. We feel that they have an obligation also, if they're coming in a for-profit business, to put some money on the line. There's some other things that need to be done.
There's 4 people in there, 724. Pardon me? 4 people in there, 724.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, they didn't say this, but there'll be 4 people living at the airport, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
They want to be able to be in the air. If they get a call, they want to be able to be in the air within 10 to 15 minutes from the time they get the call. So you have the nurses, the pilots, and whoever it takes, but they will be there and run from their so-called house to the helicopter and be in the air. It's a first-class unit. When I've checked, we've all checked on them. They're headquartered out of Denver, Colorado. Is that correct? It's out of Denver, Colorado. And it's going to be a real boon to the aviation area for medical services, and especially being as close as they are to our hospital. And it doesn't come inexpensive, but it isn't, we don't have to put another 5,000-foot runway in to make it work either. The helicopter is large. It's large enough so that Donna can get it in the shop hangar as we speak, but it's going to have to move a lot of the things out of there into the other hangars because it is a large helicopter. So it's one of the things that these gentlemen have worked more talking to the people than I have, and we'll let them go from there.
You have a helipad out there now? Do you have a spot marked for a helicopter?
Not
No.
a helipad per
Yeah.
se, no, when helicopters land out there, normally, they have either, are either military, or they have something to do with the hospital, or, utilities. They will, if they need fuel, they'll land by the pumps, otherwise they'll utilize the existing ramp.
Okay.
And they are going to want a painted area for a designated area. This is one of the things that the commission, this came to me today, by the way, less than an hour ago, that there's a negotiation on the striping and so forth of an area where it will be specific for their landing, and we've got a few things to get through yet. There is a possibility that they will put what they call a 12-hour service helicopter in here to get started. They would like to go as soon as possible. In the 12 hours, they wouldn't be available with nurses and so forth at full time. So we feel that we can have them ready to go by the 1st of August. We kind of have a plan. We've done some costs, and I think it's something that'll be a great.
Who's gonna bring in the house?
Pardon
They're
me?
bringing the house?
They own the house.
Okay.
They own the house. We need to provide the place to put it and the hookup for their sewer system.
So release the
We
land to
also,
them.
out at the airport, need a newer sewer system for the shop area because we've had a problem there. So it will serve both the home that is placed there and the shop hangar now. And if they do make the 5-year and beyond commitment, this home might have to be moved. And if it does have to be moved, closer to the terminal, wherever it is going to be, or the hangar, wherever they're going to be, this will be at their expense.
So we've leased land to them
That's something we need
to address?
negotiate right now, Mr. Mayor. We're working on some type of reimbursement for use of land of our facilities.
Okay.
Electricity, we are trying to work with, we are Glidden Rail Electric, and we want to meter their own so there's no controversy over the cost. It will have to be heated with propane, and that'll be at their expense. We will probably provide the water for them.
You have well out there?
Yes.
You have a well out there now?
Yes.
Did I hear you right, you thought you could recoup 75% of the
I'm
cost?
hoping
Is
that's
this a-
right.
Okay,
I'm
and that
hoping
that recovery is through the lease of the land?
Maybe some of the upfront money will be coming directly from them, and we're negotiating. We're dealing with 2 different locations. We're dealing with the real estate department in Denver, we're working with their central area coordinator who has out of council us. And I'm hoping to have her in Carroll later this week so we can do a walkthrough of what we visually are seeing we would provide and what we're expecting from them. And she can take it back to their real estate coordinator rather than trying to negotiate with two different people.
Is this a publicly owned company?
Yes, it is.
So-
It's private owned.
It's
Privately owned, there's not a stock, they're
No,
not
it's
available for.
private equity.
Yeah, okay.
What was the name of the company again, please?
Air Methods.
We've been very fortunate